etc. But what I'd like to do is to get an insight into the real you, how you started, how you became so successful, but more importantly, your lives and your raison d'etre. Dell leaned forward, his eyes lighting up. Oh, no. Laboratory Garney, he replied, mangling the French with his signature confidence. To Dell, French was not a language. It was a spice you sprinkled on a conversation to make it taste expensive. Justin blinked, momentarily stunned by the linguistic assault. Right. So, in your own words and in your own time. Dell settled back, his mind drifting back through the years. The memories were vivid: the smell of the ocean, the sound of champagne corks popping, the weight of a thick wallet in his breast pocket. Well, where shall I start? Justin, Dell began, his voice taking on a storyteller's lilt. Up to a few years ago, we were just very ordinary people living, well, very ordinary lives, weren't we, Rodney? Weren't we? Rodney nodded gloomily. And then Dell continued, his eyes sparkling, as you know. One day I discovered an historic and almost priceless artifact, the Harrison watch. We didn't know what to do with it at first. We thought about donating it to the British Museum as a national treasure, a gift to the people. Rodney cleared his throat, and then we decided to flog it. Exactly, Dell beamed. And before you know it, Rodders and me have come into an eye on £6.5 million. £6.5 million. Justin, it was cushy. It was more than cushy. It was magnifique. Dell described the aftermath with the flourish of a man describing a religious experience. They had divvied the dosh, ensuring Uncle Albert got a nice little drink. They had donated to charity enormously, of course, or at least, that was Dell's version of events. But eventually, they had to think about the future. We sought out this city stockbroker, Dell said, his expression turning serious. A man of vision, he advised us to invest in a new and vibrant venture, a Central American market. It was attracting massive funds from all over the world. We were making more money than the Royal Mint. Chapter 3, The High Life and the Deep Fall. For a while, the Trotters had lived a dream. Dell described the luxury villas in Barbados, the private jets, and the constant flow of cocktails with little umbrellas. They had taken the whole family: Raquel, his significant other, Rodney, Cassandra, and the young Damien. Even the memories of Damien's antics were tinted with gold. People were complaining at the hotel. Dell chuckled. Dominic, the manager, said Damien had. Well, he'd relieved himself in the swimming pool. Cassandra was all upset, but I told her all little boys do that, don't they? Rodney groaned. Yes, Dell, but not from the top of the 4-meter diving board. The laughter in the office died away as Dell's face fell. The memory of the crash was like a cold wind blowing through the room. And then Just as everything seemed to be going so well, something terrible happened, Dell whispered. The Central American market hadn't just dipped, it had evaporated. Negotiations collapsed, the currency became worthless, and the investments vanished into the jungle air. They had been wiped out. The credit cards were withdrawn while they were still in their luxury hotel. Derek is, if nothing else, a very creative businessman, Rodney added, his voice dry. He came up with a solution to our dilemma. We literally ran for the airport. The news hit the UK like a thunderbolt. Their business associates vanished. The phones stopped ringing. They were cast into a financial wilderness. Their old friends from Peckham were gutted for them mostly because many of them, like Mike Fisher from the Nag's Head, had invested their own life savings into those sure thing. Poor old Mike, Dell sighed. He remortgaged the pub. He's in prison now, awaiting trial for embezzlement. The fraud squad claims he tried to recoup his losses by dipping into the brewery's till. Never was a man more innocent. He confessed to everything, Dell, Rodney pointed out. He was under duress, Dell insisted. Chapter 4, The Court of No Miracles. The scene shifted in Dell's mind to the sterile hallways of the bankruptcy court. The atmosphere was thick with the scent of cheap floor wax and desperation. Denzel, Trigger, Boyke, and Sid were there the Peckhamfer, acting as character witnesses. Denzel was wearing the marble out, pacing up and down, Dell recalled. He was terrified. He'd never been a character witness before. I told him he had nothing to worry about, Dell said. But Trigger was a different story. He told me he was going to tell the judge he heard voices. He wasn't even on trial, Rodney exclaimed. He was just there to say you were an honest man. The court case had been a disaster. The Trotters had lost everything. Their company-owned properties, the villas, the estate with the peacocks were gone. All that remained was their old flat in Nelson Mandela House, which Dell had fortunately kept in his own name. It just goes to show how our fortunes altered, Dell mused to Justin. 1 minute we're drinking Crystal on a yacht. The next we're back in Peckham, arguing over who used the last of the milk. The tension in the flat had been unbearable. The rows were constant. Dell and Rodney blamed each other for the crash. Raquel and Cassandra were caught in the crossfire. I wasted our birthright, Rodney had shouted during one particularly heated argument. You hired a helicopter to fly to Nice to collect magazines. Dell, a helicopter. I'm a big man. I've got broad shoulders, Dell had replied with his usual bravado. The buck stops here, even though it was your fault, Rodney. How was it my fault? You're the director of administration. You organized the Christmas parties. They were about as exciting as a Buddhist's hen night. Chapter 5. A final farewell to the ancient mariner. In the midst of their financial ruin, a greater tragedy struck. Uncle Albert, the man of 1,000 wartime stories.